The applause was already dying down when the man in the dark suit took his place at the grand piano. The stage lights framed him in gold, catching the faint scar along his jawline and the way his eyes seemed to look just past the audience, focused inward, somewhere deeper. The room was quiet. Too quiet. At the back, near the bar, 3 young men in matching designer hoodies froze mid-laugh. Their drinks sat untouched. One of them, Tyler, slowly lowered his phone, recognition flickering across his face like a shadow. "That's him," he whispered, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the scene. The man on stage placed his hands gently on the keys. He didn't bow. He didn't look up. And when the first notes flowed, soft, deliberate, aching with something too big for words, the air in the club seemed to tighten. No sheet music. No metronome. No hint that he could hear the sound at all. Tyler's throat went dry. The waiter they had mocked just 3 hours ago was playing like the piano itself had been waiting for him. It started as just another Friday night challenge for their YouTube channel. The kind of edgy prank content that got clicks from bored teenagers and kept sponsors mildly nervous but still paying. Tyler, Dylan, and Chris were the self-proclaimed kings of social heat, a channel that prided itself on testing social norms. Translation: they poked fun at people in ways that danced on the line between obnoxious and cruel. The setting tonight? A cozy, brick-walled Italian restaurant in downtown Seattle. Low lighting. Sinatra playing faintly from hidden speakers. The kind of place couples came to for anniversaries, and foodies came to for handmade pasta, but the 3 weren't here for pasta. "Okay, remember," Dylan whispered, setting his phone camera on the table so it peeked out between the bread basket and a sweating glass of water. "We act confused every time he comes over. Like we can't understand him. The more awkward, the better." Tyler grinned. "And maybe drop a few comments, like speak up or what, you can't hear me? But keep it lighthearted." He made air quotes, because they all knew it was anything but. Chris laughed. "Man, this is gonna blow up. People eat this stuff up." They didn't notice the waiter approaching until his shadow stretched across the table. He was tall, maybe late 20s, with neatly combed brown hair and a pressed white shirt. The name tag read Liam. There was something unusual in the way he moved. His eyes darted between their mouths as they spoke, not their eyes. He held a small notepad, pen poised, smile polite but faintly guarded. "Good evening. Welcome to Rossi's. May I start you off with drinks?" His voice was soft, his words slightly rounded, the kind of speech pattern you sometimes hear from someone who hasn't always had access to sound. "Bingo." Tyler leaned forward dramatically. "What was that?" Liam didn't flinch. He simply repeated, slower. "Would you like something to drink?" Chris smirked at Dylan. "Yeah, Can you say that louder?" "We can't hear you, man." Liam's smile didn't fade. But something flickered behind his eyes. He tapped his pen gently against the notepad and spoke again, perfectly steady. "I can read lips, so if you speak clearly, I'll get your order." "Oh," Tyler said, dragging the sound out like a joke. "You're deaf?" Liam's jaw tightened, barely, but he nodded once. "Partially." Dylan, still playing the bit, leaned toward the hidden camera and mouthed, "This is too easy." They ordered in an exaggerated, mocking manner, slowly, loudly, over-enunciating, throwing in pointless hand gestures like they were teaching a toddler. Liam wrote it all down without comment, turned, and walked away with the same quiet grace he'd arrived with. The second he was gone, they broke into stifled laughter. "Bro, his face," Chris wheezed. "Like, I almost feel bad." "Almost." Tyler shrugged. "Hey, it's content. We're giving him a story to tell his friends, too." They had no idea how wrong that would be. The food came out 20 minutes later, steaming and fragrant. Liam carried 3 plates balanced like art, one on each forearm, one in his hand, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Here you go," he said softly, setting Tyler's plate down first, then Dylan's, then Chris's. Dylan glanced at the hidden phone camera, then looked back up with fake concern. "Hey, this pasta. You sure it's ours? Don't want you mixing orders up 'cause you couldn't hear the chef. Chris snorted into his drink. Liam's expression didn't change. He simply said, "Yes, I'm sure," and stepped back. Tyler twirled his fork slowly, watching Liam turn toward another table. "Bet he goes home and Googles us later," Tyler muttered. "Imagine finding out we made you famous." "Yeah," Dylan said. "Famous for getting roasted." They didn't notice the older couple at the next table giving them sharp looks. Halfway through the meal, Dylan upped the ante. He accidentally dropped his fork, waited for Liam to return, and instead of simply asking for another, he mimed a cartoonish pantomime of eating and clanged his fork against his water glass. Liam bent down, picked up the fork, and replaced it without a word. Something about that calm, not defensive, not angry, just solid, seemed to irritate Dylan. "Man, I'm trying to interact here," he muttered under his breath. Liam was already walking away. When the check finally came, Liam set it down with the same steady politeness. Tyler noticed, for the first time, the faint calluses on his fingertips, thick, rough patches, not from waiting tables. But before the thought could form, Dylan scribbled for better hearing aids on the tip line, took a picture for their Instagram story, and tossed the receipt back on the table. "Cruel but gold," Chris said. Tyler laughed, but it came out thinner than before. Something in Liam's still, patient presence was harder to mock now. After dinner, they headed down the block to Brickhouse Lounge, a dim, intimate venue known for its Friday open mics. It was mostly stand-up comics and amateur bands, the kind of place they could heckle from the back row without anyone kicking them out. They grabbed a booth, ordered beers, and set up a second phone for filming. "Tonight," Dylan grinned, "we heckle musicians. It's gonna be great." The first few acts were exactly what they expected, nervous comics stumbling over punchlines, a guy with an acoustic guitar singing about his ex, a slam poet who took himself way too seriously. Then the host walked up and adjusted the mic. "All right, folks. This next performer is someone we're very lucky to have. He's just passing through town, but his resume." The host whistled. "Let's just say it's impressive. Give it up for Liam Harper." Tyler's beer froze halfway to his mouth. "Wait," Chris said, eyes narrowing. "Like our Liam?" It was. Same pressed shirt, now with sleeves rolled up. Same calm face. Same faint scar along the jaw. Only now, he was walking toward the grand piano at center stage. Liam didn't sit right away. He adjusted the bench, brushed invisible dust from the keys, and took a slow breath. The room fell silent, the kind of hush that feels like a held breath. He placed his hands gently on the keys, and then, the first notes weren't loud, they didn't need to be. A single, slow chord rolled out into the room, deep, warm, resonant. Then another. Liam's fingers moved like water, each touch deliberate, almost reverent. The melody began to take shape, not some simple tune, but something layered and aching, the kind of piece you couldn't just play from sheet music. It lived in his hands. In the way his shoulders swayed, in the way his eyes stayed closed, like the music was somewhere inside him and he was just letting it out. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The sound seemed to pour into the air like light through a stained glass window, warm here, shadowed there, changing the whole room's color. At the booth, the influencers had gone still. Dylan's phone was still recording, but his hand was frozen mid-adjustment. Chris's smirk had completely vanished. Tyler just stared. He'd seen people play piano before, in bars, at school concerts, even online, but this was different. This wasn't playing a song. This was telling something without words. The tempo shifted, faster now, his fingers flying, striking notes with precision so sharp it looked impossible. Tyler caught himself holding his breath, like an audience member in a movie afraid of missing a plot twist. Then, without warning, the music slowed, softened again, like a confession whispered in the dark. Liam's head tilted slightly toward the keys, and Tyler realized something that made his chest tighten. There were no glances at the audience. No subtle listening for the room's reaction. He wasn't listening at all, he couldn't. This was muscle memory, years of training and discipline woven into his very bones. Every dynamic shift, every pause, every swell was perfectly placed. Not because he could hear it, but because he knew it. A woman in the front row wiped at her eyes. At the bar, the bartender had stopped mid-pour, even the usual clinking of glasses had died away. When Liam hit the final, trembling note, it didn't fade so much as linger, hanging in the air like it wanted to stay. He didn't stand right away. He just sat there, hands resting on the keys, eyes still closed. Then he rose, gave the faintest nod, and walked off stage without a single word. The room erupted. Not in rowdy cheering, in something deeper. A standing ovation that felt like respect, not just applause. Tyler didn't move. For the first time all night, he couldn't think of a single thing to say to the camera. The crowd was still buzzing when the next comic stepped on stage, but it was like trying to tell jokes in the middle of a church service. People were still talking about him. Tyler sat in the booth, staring at the stage like it might replay the moment if he just focused hard enough. Dylan finally broke the silence. Dude. Did you see that? I mean, how? He's deaf, Chris interrupted. How does that even work? Muscle memory, Dylan muttered. Though he sounded more unsure than confident, they all glanced toward the side of the stage, where Liam was now standing near a hallway leading to the green room, chatting with the host. His posture was the same as before, calm, polite, reserved, but there was something different now. The room saw him. Let's go talk to him, Tyler said suddenly. They crossed the room like they were heading into enemy territory, weaving through clusters of people who were still murmuring about the performance. When they reached him, Liam turned at once, his gaze landing not on their eyes, but on their mouths. As always, Tyler swallowed. Hey, we just wanted to say, great set, man, Dylan cut in quickly. Seriously. That was unreal. Liam gave a small, polite smile. Thank you. Up close, Tyler could see the faint sheen of sweat still on his forehead, the way his hands flexed slightly as if the music was still running through them. Chris tried for casual. So, you play here a lot? Liam shook his head. No. I was just in town for the weekend. He hesitated a fraction of a second, then added, heading to New York tomorrow. The host, who'd been standing nearby, grinned. You guys don't know who this is? Huh? Tyler glanced at Dylan and Chris. Should we? The host chuckled. This man's played Carnegie Hall. Twice. Toured Europe with the Vienna Philharmonic. There's a documentary about him, Silent Keys. Check it out. Changed the way I think about music. Tyler's mouth went dry. Liam just shrugged lightly, almost uncomfortable with the praise. Music's been my whole life. Lost most of my hearing at 15, but I already knew how it felt in my hands. Didn't want to stop. Something twisted hard in Tyler's chest. He thought about the way they'd mocked him, the fake "can you speak louder" lines, Dylan's fork stunt, that awful tip message. All while he'd been carrying this, not just talent. Not just discipline. Resilience. Tyler opened his mouth, then closed it. Words felt clumsy now. Anything he said would sound like a half-hearted apology in a noisy room. Liam seemed to read the tension on his face. He tilted his head slightly and said, "It's easy to judge what you don't understand. Harder to ask about it." He didn't say it with anger. Just truth. Then he nodded once, as if the matter were settled, and walked toward the back exit, disappearing into the cool Seattle night. At the booth later, the three sat in silence. The camera on Dylan's phone was still rolling, but no one was laughing. When Tyler finally reached for it, he didn't hit upload. He hit delete. No viral video. No footage shared online. Just the quiet, humbling truth of an unforgettable encounter. And for Tyler, Dylan, and Chris, it was a lesson they wouldn't forget. Never underestimate someone by what they lack, admire them for what they've overcome. The end. My name is Temille Deebs. Please subscribe and make sure to click on the notification button to know when we upload a new video. Also like, share and comment your thoughts. Thank you, and I will see you in my next video.